from Baz Luhrmann's late 90s version of Romeo and Juliet. And today is what the sonnet structure suggests in the play Romeo and Juliet. So, what is a sonnet? Simply, it's a poem, but the word derives from Italian word sonetto, which means little song, and often these were sung in the past. What makes a sonnet, the main component is that it's 14 lines, and each line is written in what's called iambic pentameter. And iambic pentameter can be thought of, one, an iamb is a two-syllable poetic unit, pentameter meaning 5, well, penta meaning 5, meter meaning a unit of measurement. So each line in a sonnet which is written in iambic pentameter therefore has 5 of these iambs, which are each 2 syllables. Therefore, each line has 10 syllables. There's a question mark after that, though each line is written in iambic pentameter, because traditionally sonnets were written in this. Some people nowadays who still write sonnets, they will be more free form and not do it this way, which is the same thing at the bottom, rhyme scheme. A lot of it's done in rhyme scheme traditionally, but not so much anymore, or it's kind of, poetic license to do it however you want. There are traditionally 2 types of sonnets, the first being the Italian or Petrarchan sonnet. Petrarch was an Italian writer, poet in the 1300s, and his specific form is considered probably the first form of the sonnet. He pretty much developed this idea. And then Shakespeare had his own form, which is still, again, 14 lines, the same, but just a different structure internally, and you'll see that shortly, also known as the English sonnet. So Petrarch versus Shakespeare, and there can be only one. So since Petrarch is kind of historically a good backdrop to start with, as I just want to get you how we got to the sonnet, we are not going to talk about Petrarch today, though. That is another lesson altogether. So the components of the Shakespearean sonnet, again, 14 lines. Each sonnet, though, in the Shakespearean formula is composed of 4 stanzas. Stanzas in poetry are similar to paragraphs in any other kind of prose writing that you're usually accustomed to. The first, second, and third stanzas of a Shakespearean sonnet are 4 lines each. These are called quatrains. And then the 4th stanza is only 2 lines, and it's called a couplet. What does this structure do? In the first quatrain, the poet or writer poses a problem or conflict or issue, and through that quatrain and the next 2 develops that, and then ultimately results in a sort of a resolution at the end. So if you want to metaphorically think of it as, say you're outside and it's a nice sunny day and cloudless sky, but you do see some clouds in the distance, and that can kind of be like your first quatrain. The second quatrain, you kind of get that overcast is overhead, and it's kind of raining, and it's starting to rain a bit by the end of the second quatrain. By the third quatrain, it's all out hurricane, tornado, earthquake at the same time. And how did this happen? And then all of a sudden, the couplet is the resolution. It's like it's a nice sunny day again. That's a very generic metaphorical way of thinking about how the structure works. The poet poses a problem, builds on it, and then resolves it. So let's look at a sonnet. This is the prologue from Romeo and Juliet. This is before the play even begins, and it pretty much details what goes on within 14 lines. It tells you the entire play. So could I get 4 people to read? Well, here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so with your number, just read to the first asterisk, and you'll just read to the second, to the third, to the fourth.
2 households, both alike in dignity, from fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge, break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean.
From forth the fatal loins of these 2 foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventures piteous overthrows, doth with their death bury their parents' strife.
The fearful passage of their death marks love, and the continuance of their parents' rage, which, but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage.
The which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss our toil shall strive to mend.
So basically the chorus, which is generally composed of one person coming out onto the stage and addressing the audience directly, he has told you, he gives you the setup, he gives you the whole story about, this is a story about two lovers who commit suicide together over the strife of their family's bitter war against each other. And then the couplet, the final resolution is that these actors are going to now tell you what I just tried to explain to you. They're going all the pieces I missed, I didn't get to explain within this 14-line poem. The 2-hour play itself is going to rectify and to tell more sufficiently. So if you take the poem apart, the first quatrain, you'll see I've actually split it up into the 3 quatrains and the couplet ahead. The letters denote the rhyme scheme. So, for instance, the A is dignity, mutiny, scene unclean for the B's, and so on and so forth. Oh, looks like my letters got a little moved at the bottom. That's okay. And that's kind of the, often you'll see sonnets written this way. They'll actually be in books this way, though they will be in books the way you saw in the previous slide. So what is this, with this structure in mind of the building of the resolution at the end and the building of a problem, let's skip ahead to the party, but not this party. So we're going to skip ahead to Act 1, Scene 5. This is where Romeo and his friends, they go to the Capulets' house, the house of their bitter enemies, and Juliet and Romeo meet each other for the first time. And what is said is kind of interesting. So I need 2 people to read, preferably one male, one female. So will you be our Romeo?
Of course.
Nicole? Obviously. And I need Nicole.
Sure.
So please start reading.
If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, this gentle sin is this. My lips, 2 blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have had that pilgrim's hands do touch, and palm to palm is this holy palmer's kiss.
Have not saints lips and holy palmers too?
I pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
Oh, then, dear saint, let lips do what hands do. They pray, grant thou, lest faith turn to despair.
Saints do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then move not while my prayers effect I take.
Excellent reading, thank you guys. Good Romeo and Juliet there. So, let's take that dialogue that you 2 just recited for us so beautifully and put it together. So there you have it. It's the idea here is the first lines that Romeo and Juliet say when they meet are in a sense a poem. And you can see it there, the blue representing Romeo, the pink Juliet. And you get the full sonnet structure with the exact same rhyme scheme as the first one. And the first quatrain being Romeo's, the second being Juliet's, and the third they kind of intermingle. And in the couplet they intermingle and it kind of resolves. Now we don't even have to really talk about the actual meaning within the poem to get the point across. But the next line, Romeo, this is actually the very next line after the sonnet.
So, okay.
Please.
Thus from my lips, by thine, my sin is purged.
You don't have to read yet, but you will. So he kisses her then. So pretty much 14 lines, a whole poem, and then Romeo says one thing and they kiss. Now you have to imagine 2 people together who meet for the first time, hardly say anything, and this happens. So Juliet, would you continue on?
Then have my lips the sin that they have took.
Sin from my lips, O trespass sweetly urged. Give me my sin again.
And kissed by the book.
Thank you very much. So Shakespeare's point, when these 2 come together, the dynamic is not just 2 people meeting, it's that the dynamic is that they are poetry. The meeting themselves, the relationship between them is in fact a poem. And this is what I try to bring to you based on the prologue with the sonnet structure, because Shakespeare is pretty much all written in iambic pentameter, so it was just another way for him to be able to, by using the structure, to kind of connote this relationship between them. So for more information, you can go to these 2 websites. I'm just going to take you to this one immediately. This is an excellent website, the Shakespeare's-sonnets.com. It has all of Shakespeare's sonnets in it, and also sonnets from various other Renaissance poets and other poets from different eras. It also has all manner of works of art from the Renaissance, and I just found it to be a very valuable resource. But I won't stick too long with that. Ooh, let's just skip ahead. So I leave you with this thought.